Hello everyone, this is Muted and Nuts, and today we'll be continuing our beginner-friendly Road to SCP video series. Today we'll be looking at another Hack the Box machine, that is Chatterbox, and Chatterbox is a Windows machine and the difficulty is medium. So that will be our first medium Windows box. Okay, so let's just get started. So first thing, obviously I always run an auto recon scan, and I'll be using sudo command for that because I want my scan to run as root because I'm running the system as Kali. I'm going to be using Python 3 over here because we need to run this autorecon file as Python 3. I'll be giving the directory location wherever this Python, autorecon py file is present. And I'll be giving the target IP address, that is 10.10.10.74 in the case of Chatterbox. And also I'll be giving the O switch for, output file location, and I'll be giving the directory where I want to save it as. Okay, so I already did execute the scan, and if we check out the scan results, we do not get much information. That's and just two ports, okay, 9255 and 9256. And if you see over here, it says state open, and the service it says like TCP wrapped. Now, this is what happens when the scan runs too fast, right? So sometimes it does not get actual information or something, or the target machine is probably interrupting our scan. It's not letting us gain actual information. Okay, so when this happens, obviously it does not mean that this port is blocked or something, and we do not see anything else, right? We just see those two ports. So what we do is next thing, we'll run an nmap scan. Okay, I'll just mention nmap. We'll be using SC for save script and SV for service scan, and we'll be giving the PN switch because if you don't give PN, because the ping probe thing would be it would be blocking it, so it will be disabled. So that's why I just give PN, and as well as we'll be giving the T switch. Okay, so T is for the time taken, and for the response and everything, how long it waits for the response to come from nmap. So T5 is like the fastest scan, and our normal scan which we do in auto recon, right? So that is done in T4. That is by default. By default, the nmap is T4. So we would just reduce the speed of the scan. So we'll make it T1 or T0. T0 is very long. It will take very long to complete, but T1 works. So you can do T1 over here and obviously give the target IP address. That is 10.10.10.74. Okay, and obviously you can give the output directory as nmap scan T1 or something like that. Okay. So I already, it takes some time to run, like probably 1 or 2 minutes. So I've already done the scan. So let's just quickly look at the scan result. If you see the scan result over here, this is what I mentioned. Okay, I'm sorry, I missed the port number over here. So obviously you take that and also mention the port number, that is these two ports over here, 9255 and 9256. For that you just give the P switch over here and you give the port number, that is 9255 and comma 9256. Okay, so that's how we'll scan for only these two ports. Okay, so now next thing what I'll do is I'll just check the scan results. Okay, so this is what I use for the scan. I gave the port number and everything. I did output it to this particular file, text file, and we see that now we get the service information. Okay, service and version information. That is HTTP and a chat is running something. It says like version a chat system HTTPD something like a chat. We do not have any version number or something. We can probably go over here and try to check it out since it's an HTTP page. It says HTTP service, but it does not mean that because obviously your applications also which run on your system, they work on HTTP. Okay, like any application like Skype or something, so they work on HTTP. HTTPS more likely, but yeah, they work on that. So there is a chat over here. So now since we do not have anything on the web browser, so what we'll do is first thing, just do a search exploit against it. Or you can go to Google and just check for HR vulnerabilities. And we find like two actual entries. These are the entries, I think meta chat or parachat. We are not interested in that. So we'll look at chat over here. It says chat and this. It gives the version number. But in our particular case, we do not have any version number. And we do not have any other ports open as well, right? We just have these two ports open. We don't have any version number over here, and this is the first probably one exploit which we can try and use it. So why not go and try and use it? Always don't rely on the version number. If you see something, probably just go and use it. Obviously this is a metasploit one, so we'll be avoiding that and we'll be using this particular version. So what we'll do is search exploit. We'll be giving the M switch over here so that it gets copied to our current working directory. Okay, so we'll just paste it and it'll get copied. Okay, copied to this particular location. So let's just go over there to the exploit folder. So this is our file, and it looks like it's a, obviously it was mentioned over there itself that it's a buffer overflow exploit, and it says remote buffer overflow. Okay, so obviously this term should be like, in your head, like, it should be like muscle memory. If somebody says remote, that means obviously you can, launch the exploit from your attack machine to the target machine. If they say local, that means we need to have a shell over there present, right? So we need to have some sort of shell to escalate our privilege or something like that. So this says remote itself. So we do not need any access or local shell present. So we can do it remotely. So that's our remote buffer overflow. And we'll look at the exploit, and it says like obviously it's a Python exploit. You don't have to look much into it. Probably there'll be some, obviously there's a buffer overflow possibility over here. So what we'll do is now we just check for things over here. It says like server IP address and SOC. So probably we'll have to change this thing over here first. And it says printer, that's it, is doing the job, sending the payload and everything. And also this particular user who has created this has actually mentioned how he has created the payload. Okay, why this is important is because last time I guess once more we had tried to check some exploit where it was buffer overflow, but we did not have this particular part. So we had to go with actual exploit what that particular user had created, right? The POC. So we had to go based on that. So how will this help us is, since he has mentioned the part, using this particular code, he has got this output using MSF Venom. So let's just look what he has done. It's like, okay, he's creating an MSF Venom payload. Okay, he's giving the architecture as x86. Okay, it says platform Windows, and the payload is Windows execute. So this is one payload which is like, you'll not get a shell probably. You can go and execute any Windows command. Okay, so if you want, you can probably write ping over here instead of CMD cal C exe. You can probably write like ping and then ping to this particular port or something like that. Okay, so you can do that. Okay, and just leave it as it is since it's commented out. And also it's be giving the encoding switch. Okay, so this is how it's going to encode the payload, which is using x86 and Unicode mix. And it's giving the B switch for bad characters. I hope you guys are like, if you're preparing for OSCP, you probably might have gone through buffer overflow, the videos, or probably you tried to do it yourself in one server or something. So this is the B switch for bad characters. So in short, if you guys don't know what bad characters are, so these are the characters which we cannot use in our code. Okay, so these are the bad characters. So 00 is all the null byte is already the bad character over here, but the remaining ones also are the bad characters. Probably this user has found it off, and since there are many bad characters, if you see, there's a long list of bad characters. So we'll just leave it as it is. Good to know that we have the bad characters figured out over here. So now when it says buffer register EX, probably for stability maybe, and I'm not sure about this. Yeah, okay, the register, sorry, the buffer register, which is he has to go to the EX file. Okay, so since we have multiple registers over there, like ESP and everything, so probably that is the one which it's mentioning about. And also the file type, that is Python. So they want a Python file to be created, okay, over here. The Python output. So because obviously you have to enter the Python payload, right? That way. So we need that particular Python payload. So what we'll do is we'll just take this, copy it first. This is what I did. So okay, one more thing. To do this box, there are two ways. Like it's one way only, but I have like I had done it in a different way, using the same particular method but in a different way. Okay, so let's just look at that first, and then probably we'll look at the other more efficient way probably. Okay, so just we'll just take and copy this payload over here, and first we'll just remove this comment out. We have MSF Venom, we have this. Now what I'll do is, platform Windows is fine. The payload, I'll change that payload. Okay, I don't want this execute payload, I want a proper shell payload itself. So I'll just put Windows, and we'll put shell reverse TCP. Okay, so that is Windows, that is shell and reverse TCP. So now here I'm using a staged payload. Okay, so because staged payload is because in buffer overflow you obviously need to have a small size always of the payload. You cannot have a large size. You cannot. So stageless is obviously the one where the entire payload content will be sent over the payload. So this is the stageless payload, but we'll be using the staged payload. So this is the stage payload over here. So this what will happen is it will send a small chunk of data, and in our MSF handler will be, once it executes on a MSF handler, there'll be like, it will send a request like, hey, I have reached the system target machine, and now you probably send the remaining of the troops or backup, okay, like the remaining of the data in short. So you send the remaining of the data so we can establish a proper shell. So staged payloads have a small size, okay, so it's very helpful in case of buffer overflows. So we'll be doing that, and then we'll remove this CMD command. We do not need this, and we'll be adding the hell host, obviously. That is our local host, that is 10.10.14.20 in my case, because my attack machine's IP is that. And also we'll be giving the L port, that is 4444. Okay, we'll not change anything else, leave it as it is, will not mention anything, we'll leave it as it is. We have the Python, everything, that's it. So what we'll do is, now it has Python. I don't want it to display it over here in the terminal, so I'll just save it to a file. You can either use the O switch, the small O switch, and you can probably give as buff, okay, buff .py, or you can even give this particular arrow, okay, and you can put buff py. So let's try that. Probably take some time to load. And one more thing to mention is that since we are using a staged payload, right, we cannot use netcat as a listener. We'll have to only use what you say, the MSF Venom handler. Oh, sorry, not MSF Venom handler, but MSF handler. And you can very well use MSF handler. You can check it out on OSCP website as well. You can use the handler. You can only not use the Metapreter shells. Okay, so this is a normal shell. It is not the Metapreter shell. So we can use this. And if we see payload size is this, and final size of the Python file says something like this. Okay, payload size is this though. So let's just look over here. Here the payload size is like 512 bytes. So we are somewhat close to it, but I managed to get it working over here. Okay, in this payload, this huge file. So other thing, we can obviously add a proper stageless payload, but the size would be more. Okay, so now we got this, and we'll just quickly look at the buff py file, and this is the payload which is present. So we'll just copy it, and we'll go to our exploit. We'll have to probably delete this, so probably just be careful while deleting. Take this, okay, since we have the blank space, just paste it, okay. We do not do anything else, we just took this command, we added like hello host and everything, and then we pasted the payload, that's it. And now we have to obviously change this IP address over here. Okay, so we'll take, since this is not the target machine's IP address, so we'll enter the target machine's IP address. That's 10.10.74. Okay, we'll leave the port number as it is, because there are two ports, right? 9255 and 9256. So probably this user has created, we might have done some testing. So 9256 would be the port to target. If that does not work, then we can change it to 9255 probably. So I'll just leave it as it is for now. I'll not do anything else. And yeah, that's it. I don't think we need to do anything else over here. Okay, so what I'll do is, next step, I'll just start up MSF handler. So MSF console. So we'll be using MSF handler, that is exploit multi handler. Okay. Oops. Set lhost 14.20 set lport. So 4444, because we are given the same in the payload over here itself. Okay. And now we'll be giving another this, that is set payload. So that is Windows shell reverse TCP. Okay, so this is the one which we are giving. We have to mention the payload itself, because here we have mentioned this payload, right? So probably mention this payload itself over here, so that MSF handler recognizes like, hey, this payload is this. Okay, so now let's just press exploit. Okay, so we have started exploit. We have done that. Now we'll go over here. We'll look at our py file. This is our payload file. Okay, so you can ignore the rest for now. Just this is a particular py file present, and it already has execute permission. So let's just quickly go and run it and see what happens. and it says something. Okay, we already have a shell over here. Okay, so that was like very quick. So it did poof something. Obviously, this is just a print line, and we got a shell over here, and we see who are we as. So who am I? It says that chatterbox. Okay, we are in the target machine as user Alfred over here. Okay, so we'll just probably go back. LS, it's not ls dir cd users. Okay, dir cd Alfred cd desktop dir, and you can very well cat this, not cat but type it. So you can use type and user txt and read the user flag. Okay, so that's how we got user over here. And one more interesting thing to notice, since we are in users folder, let's just try and go to the admin folder. Okay, and we are able to go inside. If we can go over here, we can probably go inside desktop itself. And we are able to go inside here as well. Okay, so we can, but we cannot actually type the root text. If you do this, it will not show. It will say access denied. So we cannot do that for now. But we can get inside the desktop folder. So that is one thing which will hold on for the second, a part of exploitation. So I'll keep that for later. How we can probably try and get this root text. Okay, so for now, that means we are not administrator, right? So let's just do who am I and groups, and we are not part of admin over here. We are part of some groups over here, but we are not part of administrator. Okay, we as in Alfred, obviously. Okay, so now other thing what I would do is I'll use system info. It'll take some time to load probably. Let's just get system information. Okay, so there are multiple hot fixes installed over here. Like KB, these are the updates, okay, Windows updates. If you guys are not aware, there are like 218 hot fixes installed. Okay, the hot fixes, 208 hot fixes installed. Okay, another thing we see, it's Windows 7 Professional Service Pack 1. This is the build. Probably check for any kernel exploit, but I would avoid kernel exploit always. But there are few boxes where the actual method is only kernel exploit of privilege escalation, so we have to do it that way. But not in this box. You can probably go and check. Probably there are kernel exploits for this box, but I don't want to do it. So obviously I just want to avoid and go to the actual intended method. And it says it's an x86 PC. Okay, that's great. Okay, so we got few information. We got the x86 architecture, obviously because our payload also had that, but that was like probably a guess. But now we enter the system, we know that it is x86. That means 32-bit. Okay, that's translates to 32 bits. Okay, so now what I'll do is, as in Linux, we had this linenum or linpiece script. So we have winpiece over here, and I've already downloaded that from here. You can probably go and get it from GitHub. Winpiece, probably get the file from here, and I think there is a already compiled version as well. So if you guys check. Uh, Okay, so you can get it from here. See, this is the one which you can get it. That is for 64-bit. This is for 32-bit. So you guys can go and get it from here. Just take this, copy it, and probably use get clone or something like that. Okay, over here on the terminal. Not over here, obviously, in your Kali machine. Okay, so I have already I have this file present over here already. So what I'll do is, obviously I want to transfer a file to my Windows machine. So what I'll do is, first thing I'll go to CD Alfred folder. Okay, and also we'll just quickly check that can we execute PowerShell commands, because this is CMD, this is not PowerShell. Okay, so if you do help, it will actually tell you CMD commands or something. Okay, and this box is a bit unstable. That's the main reason. This box is a bit, it's not very stable, and sometimes whenever you execute commands, you have to probably tap enter and to get the result or something. And that's why the PowerShell method didn't work on exactly as I planned. So let's just see what problems we face. Okay, so first thing, we'll just go to desktop. Okay, dir. We have the user flag. We don't want that. Like I would not cat it. I'll just create a temp folder. So mkdir to make a directory, mkdir, and I'll be making a tmp folder. We'll go into that. Okay, so now we are in TMP folder, right? Just create our files over here and everything. In Hack the Box, usually they don't recommend in desktop folder. You can create it somewhere else. But for now, since we are, probably trying to have this thing and we have access to it, I'll just create it over here. Okay, so now I'll be using SMB sudo SMB, I'm sorry, Impacket SMB server. So I'll be hosting a file over here, that is this particular file or this particular entire folder over here. Okay, you can probably just make it simple as well. Just take this WinP script, create another folder that is SMB itself, just for SMB, and keep it just to play safe. Okay, so I just copied this directory because we'll be needing it to enter over here. So SMB server, so I'll be entering the folder shared folder name. So my attack Kali machine will be having like a shared folder name. It will not be having this entire thing. Okay, it will not be having that, but obviously you have to enter that command as well. So after SMB server sudo impacket SMB server, you have to add that name. So I'll probably just add like kindly subscribe, and I'll be entering the directory which this SMB should be hosted. Okay, so I'll be using sudo because you have to run it as root, and that's why I'll be using sudo. And Impacket SMB server, it's like it creates an SMB server really quickly and does a lot of things on its own. You don't have to configure much things, so it's very easy to set up and very fast. So just take that, enter my Kali password. It takes some time to load. Okay, so what we'll do now is we'll copy the file from here. That means this file. Just probably take the name, yeah, and we'll paste it over here. Okay, into this temp folder. So we'll be using copy, and we'll be using backslashes. We have to give this two black backslashes. Okay, otherwise it will not work because this is a network folder, right? Network drive, SMB drive. So we'll be using that, and we'll be giving IP address 14.20. That is my attack machine's IP address, my Kali machine's, the system's IP address over here. Okay, and I'll be giving then the shared folder name, that is kindly subscribe. Okay, and then I'll be giving the file name, that is this winpiece.exe. Okay, yeah, and we'll be giving the directory, wherever we want to copy it as. So we can give it as C users Alfred desktop TMP, and I'll save the file as WinPiece itself. Okay, don't need anything much. Okay, so I already we got a request here to get the file, so it will just say done or something like that, probably in some time. Take some time probably. Yeah, so it says one file copied, and we do dir over here, and we already have this file present over here, right? So what we'll do now is we have this WinPiece file present, and so we'll just go and run it. So we'll just put WinPiece. Okay, let's just try it. Let's just try if it works this way. Yeah, it works. Okay, so it's actually running, and it will take quite some time, like probably to get information. Okay, so this is just an enumeration script, and obviously you can use it for SCP as well, because it's just enumerating things which you would do manually, like multiple lines of codes or something to get information from the registry or something. So it'll just try and get things normally. And okay, this is the start of the script. It says like there are multiple things involved. See over here in the script, if you guys want to know what it does, it's basically just doing like a system info over here and getting you the information of all these things. So what which we had done earlier, right? So it will run multiple commands and it will give us the output. So if you see over, you can go probably enumerating things and finding things every now and then. And one more thing, just don't rely on this always. It does not mean that if there is no, exploit present over here, so that means the box cannot be, it cannot be exploited fully. So now once we come over here, we see something interesting, that is default username, default password for user Alfred. Okay, ignore this 35M. Okay, so it's mentioned over here itself, so just ignore this. And for user Alfred, this is the password. Okay, so let's just copy it. Copy selection. Go to our cherry tree. For password, it says like welcome one something something. Okay. Okay, so we have the user Alfred. We have one password over here, and just to see, whenever you get passwords, right, in Linux also, whenever you get a password, try and use it like with SSH in Linux over here with the admin account to see if the password is reused or not. Sometimes it can be that it is reused. Okay, so this was my first guess itself. Like when I saw the password, I was like, okay, this is for user Alfred. Let's just check it with admin. So this should be the first thing you should know, that you found a password, try and use it with some other user, not admin itself, maybe some other user as well in the box, because some boxes may have like one, two, three users that way. Okay, so we have the password. Welcome. So now what we'll do is, since we are in CMD, we can obviously run PowerShell commands as well. So if we do this and we do who am I, it will run the command as PowerShell. So this is the other thing I'm speaking about. So I'll just show you all in this. I don't know. I think it's the shell or it's actually the box. I'm not aware. But see, if I just hit enter now, it will be stuck over here. So I need to hit enter again. Then it will give us the output. Then I need to hit enter again. Then it will come, this actual thing will be finished. So I'm not sure if it is my shell which is kind of acting funny, or it's actually the box which is acting like that with the PowerShell command. So running PowerShell over here was a really big challenge for me, like executing multiple commands. So I was not able to do it properly. But what I want to do now is, since I got this password, first thing I'll just try, and for testing I'll verify it with Alfred to see that it successfully executes everything. Okay, so I could probably just write a PowerShell C and probably write this three commands present over here. But for some reason it does not. It's not stable. It does not work. I had done a lot of testing on this. So what I did was, in the end, I just created my own PowerShell script. Okay, so I created my own PowerShell script. So I'll just tell you all what it is actually doing. So first thing is, it is like you're creating a function over here. I'm creating a function that is invoke creating password. So in sudo, in Linux, whenever you create something, okay, in Linux, whenever you create something, if you want to switch to another user, if you know their password, suppose there is user 1 and user 2. Okay, user 1 password is something like user 1 pass, and user 2 pass is like user 2 pass. Okay, there are two users, user 1 pass, user 2 pass. Now I am logged into the system, like in the in your target machine, over here in the terminal. I'm logged in as user 1. Okay, I have put a password, I have done everything. I'm message in SSH over here, and now I want to change, probably I'm adding who am I or something and checking things out. Okay, just consider this as a basic terminal. So now if I want to change to user 2, I'll be using the su command over here, and I'll be mentioning this thing. Okay, so that's how I'll do. I'll be mentioning su and user 2, and then probably it will ask me for password. So once I press enter, I have to enter user 2 pass, and that's it. I'm in as that other user. Or another thing is, I'll do sudo, and I'll be doing the user, and user 1, user 2 probably, and execute any commands over here, like who am I or something like that. Okay, so these are the two ways to do things over here in Linux. But in Windows, obviously, it is a bit tricky and challenging. It's doing the same thing, but with extra steps. Okay, so if you guys understood what I was trying to do over here. First thing, I was just trying to change my user from user 1 to user 2, and over here I'm just trying to change, trying to execute user 2 commands as what do you say, as user 1. Okay, when we do sudo l privilege, right, privilege escalations and all, we use sudo. I'm using sudo over here. If I use sudo, if I was using sudo over here, right, so that means I was running the command as root, not Kali. Okay, so that's how you use things over here. Okay, so now I have this particular thing. Let's just quickly go and check out our script. So what we are doing the same thing. So first line, I'm just creating a variable. Okay, so this is just pass. It's a variable. It can be any variable. Okay, it can be probably like password also. So let's just enter password for now. It's not necessary. It has to be something similar. Same thing or something like that. So over here in convert to secure string, this obviously you cannot change. This is the actual function of PowerShell, so you cannot change that over here. And we want to change this particular thing to a secure string. You cannot have it as plain text or something like that. And you have to give this as plain text switch and force. This is the actual PowerShell command. If you Google it, you'll find this command over there. So you have to have the script present so that it gets, it's not in plain text, something like that. So we obviously in quotes we put the password which we found, that is welcome one, which we found over here, welcome one. Okay, so that is one thing, and as plain text, we'll leave the first line. So first line is just creating a password file. Second line is cred. Okay, so you can even mention credentials over here. It's not a big deal. You can mention anything because this is a variable. This is a variable. This you can change this as well. But important thing is don't remove the invoke. You have to keep the invoke over here, and then you have to probably add some function name. Don't remove the invoke. If you remove the invoke, it's not gonna work. I'll just show you all just in case. See, it actually changes the color as well. That does not mean it will not work because this particular mouse pad it actually recognizes that it is some invalid list. So if you have to add invoke so that it recognizes it as a function. Okay, so now credentials. We are creating a new object. Now we are creating a credential with username and the password which was probably encrypted over here or something like that. Not encrypted, but it was converted to secure string. So we'll create new object, system management automation PS credential. So this is the actual script from PowerShell itself. This is not my own making or something. This is how you have to create it. Then you have to enter the codes. Then you have to enter the domain or local. Okay, so over here I added the domain name itself, that is Chatterbox. So because whenever we used to do who am I over here, it says as Chatterbox Alfred. So you can have that, and you can mention the username itself, that is Alfred over here, and we'll be giving the paths. Now this path we had already changed over here, right, as password. This thing has to be same, so mention password over here obviously, because this file in short will get copy pasted inside this. Okay, and now over here comes the next line. So we are starting a process. This is also a PowerShell command, start process, and we'll be giving the file path, that is PowerShell. Okay, so if it was some other exe file, we have to give that file part. But since we are using PowerShell, obviously Windows will just recognize PowerShell. Since we had mentioned PowerShell command, right? It actually got the file because it's inbuilt. It's everything is set and registered over there. So we'll just use PowerShell and we'll be giving the argument list like what commands you want to execute. So I'll just give who am I over here, and then I'll be giving the credential. Where's cred? Not cred over here because obviously here we have changed it, right? So let's just copy and paste that. So be careful on all these things, okay? If there's one error like this also, like if I add one, two, it will not work. So in short, what I'm trying to do is just consider our Linux system. We are trying to execute this who am I command as a user too, okay? O as root when we have root's credentials. So when we do this, right, sudo u user to who am I. So we are doing the same thing in Windows over here. So we are just giving the credential. I like, hey, it's basically like an ID card, okay? Like I have created some ID pass for you, like swiping, you swipe something. So that belongs to a user, like probably a secret user. But now I want to execute this command, so I'm not a secret user, but I have his ID pass. So I'm like, hey, you know what? You execute this command with that secret ID card. So that's just a simple way of seeing, doing things. So this is how it works. And then I'll close this and close this function. Obviously, you started, you have to close it as well if you guys didn't know. So yeah, so that is one thing. After that, you have to call that function as well because I don't want to call it later on manually. So whenever the script actually loads into the memory, I wanted to call itself. So we are calling this over here. We have written the function, right? It's of no use until unless we don't call it. We have to actually call the function, then only obviously this is gonna run, and sorry, this thing is gonna execute. Okay, so what we'll do, we'll just do OMI, we'll do this, that's it. Now what we'll do is we come over here, we'll be using another PowerShell command, that is IEX. Okay, so before that I'll set up a HTTP listener in exploit folder only probably. That is Python 3 m HTTP server. So that thing just got done because I don't know, because there's no space over here. I did not press enter over here after this. Okay, so now we have the Python HTTP server listening. We have this particular file, that is PowerShell TCP2. Okay, I just created that. You can obviously mention any name, invoke any name. So I just mentioned it that way, just kept it that way. I took it from this file, and this file was present. We'll look into this later. So after that, I just deleted everything and I created my own function over here. So it's TCP2. Let's just copy this. this is what I use, like rename and control A and control C. So this is my just thing, or like my thing what I do. If you guys can, whichever thing y'all are comfortable with, y'all can copy paste using that. Okay, so I'll be giving PowerShell C, and now I'll be creating a function that is IEX new object. Okay, new object net web client and download string single quotes HTTP attack machine's IP address, because we are running this HTTP server over here, right? And the port same as this, which we are running it as, and also the file name over here, which I had copied earlier. I'll paste it, close this, and I'll close this as well. Okay, so you started this, obviously you have to close this as well. You started over here, single quotes, you started over here, you closed it as well. So what this command will do is, in short, it will, how we do wget in Linux systems, right? To get some file over here, right? So that is, it's going to do the same thing, but it is invoke expression. So it is going to download the string file, that is this. So it will download the entire content and it will take it in the memory. It will consume in the memory, okay? So in short, this particular script will get executed, okay? And we'll probably get who am I result. So let's just try and see what happens. So already we got the get function over here, okay? So get request, sorry. So it says 200, we got the get request. And over here, see again over here it's stuck. This PowerShell is, I don't know, really funny over here. So you have to probably press enter and then it says Alfred. So that means this function was successful. It was successfully, it executed successfully. So now what we'll do is, we knew that this particular belongs to Alfred, right? So we can probably do one thing. We can either change this to probably some other user, or we can leave it as it is. Okay, but I'll just change it to admin maybe, password admin. Okay, yes, I need to say this. Okay, here we'll add administrator. Okay, because if you see over here, net user, I hope it did not freeze up. Okay, okay, for some reason. So we have users as what you say Alfred and as well as administrator over here. So we'll just quickly go and enter administrator. We'll enter the password same over here. We'll enter admin. We'll put credentials are probably admin, credential admin, and over here also credential admin. You can leave it same itself, but just to make things understandable, I'm writing that way. So we have the script present over, we have everything done. Okay, so now we'll run the same command again. So I'll just copy and paste it. So again, we'll wait for it and see. Okay, so I think obviously you have to press enter because this box is somehow funny. So see, when I pressed enter, we actually got the output as chatterbox administrator. That means this thing is confirmed that this password is same as, this particular password is same for admin itself. Because we got who am I. Otherwise, you would have gotten some error or something saying that bad password or something like that, bad credentials provided. Okay, so now we know that admin is provided. We obviously now we can try and execute some reverse shell. Other thing what we could do is obviously get some, you enter a IEX command over here itself and probably, focus it to this particular reverse shell over here. But for that, for some reason, this shell also was not very stable. I could not do much things over there. And so I would avoid this for now. So another thing what I'll do is, I'll just create a MSF Venom file, okay? So I'll probably just create MSF Venom and I'll create another Windows shell. So now we can have a stageless payload. Okay, TCP and hellohost 20 and L port is equals to 5555 because 444 is already used up, right? So we'll give 5555. We'll give the file type as exe. We'll require exe file, and also the output file as probably shell exe. Okay, so we'll just load this. Oops, I think my bad. I forgot to give the P switch. Okay. So wait for it to complete. It will probably give us an exe file. Yeah, so we got the exe file. It says over here. Okay, so we'll just use that. Shell exe, copy it, and we'll put it in our SMB folder so that we can paste it over here to the TMP file, right? So what we'll do is copy. We'll be using the backslashes, and because it's Windows, two backslashes we need to give to get it from SMB. So this is our SMB, this is our HTTP, okay? 10.14.20, and also kindly subscribe because that was the folder name which we had mentioned earlier for SMB over here, and the file name, that is shell.exe. Probably just chmod it just to be safe. Give all permission, all right, all permission, okay, and just do that, and shell.exe, and save it to users Alfred desktop tmp shell.exe. So we get some request over here trying to copy this file probably over here. Okay, so we already have this file particularly copied. What we'll do next is we'll just set up a netcat listener over here. Now we can use netcat because we are using a stageless payload, right? So we can use netcat, no issues. So now what we'll do is, since we could run this as administrator, okay, I don't want to run any argument now because this argument is for PowerShell, right? I can obviously put PowerShell and execute some file over here, but just to make things better, I'll remove this thing, not required. I'll enter the path over here, file path. That is the file which I want to execute. That is this particular file over here. So let's just copy this path, copy selection, remove this PowerShell, paste it over here. That's it. So that means now whichever credential which we had done, who am I, right? Because with the file part we were doing PowerShell. We were starting PowerShell. Now we don't need to start PowerShell because we need to start this shell exe file because we'll get the reverse shell over here, right? We'll get a reverse shell over here. So what I'll do is I'll just save this file. I'm not doing anything. I just save this file using this, and now what, I'll just run it. So the ix command which we gave earlier, right? I'll use that same ix command, copy it and paste it over here. So we get the request and we get our shell. Now if we see who are we as, we are in the system as Chatterbox administrator. Okay, so this is how I had done the box. Okay, first and then dir stator cd desktop dir. Okay, so obviously you can go and type this root text and you will get the root flag over here. So this is how the box can be done, like with using that reverse shell or something. So another way, I'll just probably show it quickly. So another way how the box can be done is just close this. Probably don't require it anymore. Maybe close it. Yes. Exit. Okay. Close this. Close this. Don't require it anymore. Oops. Okay. Okay, so another way, we created the MSF Venom payload, right? Which was the way I just went to my history and just copy paste it, right? So what we'll do, we'll just take this. Okay, so first thing, I'll just create another. This I'll just copy it, mention it like exploit2 py. Okay, saved it as exploit2. Obviously, I'll just delete this thing. I do not require it anymore. It's a long payload. So probably just delete it. Be careful while deleting. Don't delete any other contents. This thing is same over. We'll leave it as it is. We don't want to enter anything. We'll probably take this file, and while creating the payload, we'll create this file only, but somehow something different. Obviously, we'll remove this comment thing. Otherwise, that script won't work, or that MSF venom won't run now. So we'll mention command over here. Okay, and now what we'll mention is, we'll mention a PowerShell command. So that means it is like Windows execution, and you enter the command, right? Earlier it was calc, so that usually people use, POC to pop up a calculator. That means that remote command execution was successful or something. So we'll use a PowerShell script. But over here earlier when I mentioned, I think I had mentioned, okay, I think I closed that. So I mentioned dash C, right? So we do not have to enter that, because if we enter that, it does not work for some reason. So that's why I still prefer the first way of exploiting things. Otherwise, we would be breaking our head at why this thing is not working. So we'll be using PowerShell over here and IEX and new object. Okay, net web client download string. Okay, HTTP. So this is the same command which I used to get that HTTP file earlier, right? It's nothing different. So I can use this, I can use this, and we'll probably start on port 8000 itself. I have closed it, I know for now, but I'll just start it over there itself. And we'll begin the file name. So that is, now file name we'll be using is this. Rename. I'll just show you all how to modify contents over there, but first we'll just create this particular file and we'll close it now, and we'll close the double quotes as well. Okay, so we have done this. We do not want to, we just want to execute that PowerShell command over here. Okay, so we'll be creating it as Python file. Obviously we'll be adding like buff2.py, just since this is the second buffer, right? Okay, just press enter. So now what we'll do is, using this payload, we'll just execute. We'll not get a shell first. Why? Because we have given this command over here. Okay, so this is our requirement to fulfill now. So we will probably go and execute this PowerShell. So we have a PowerShell reverse shell over here, and this is by Nishang, I guess, and you can go and get it as well. Nishang, you can go and get it over here, and just go to shells, and over here it is PowerShell TCP PS1. This is the one which I have. Okay, so once I open this, so this is the pure function over here. It mentions, it says an example like, you have to use it this way. So probably just take this and paste it maybe. You have to give the reverse switch because we have to use it as reverse shell. So don't bother what is present inside. In short, it is giving you a reverse shell. So just ignore that. You don't have to do anything. In the end, just come and paste this thing. Okay, why? Because earlier, you remember, if we had that function, this function, right? So we pasted it in the end because we need to call this particular entire function. We need to call it. If we do not call it, that means we have to call it manually later. So we do not want to do that. So when we have this script present, right, this particular payload, this command, it will create and enter a command, PowerShell command, that is this PS1. So that means I want it to execute it by itself in the end. So I don't want to manually enter anything later, because otherwise you'll have to create two MSF Venom payloads over here. Okay, so in short, I just want to keep it as it is. Obviously, I'll change the IP address and port number. That is 10.10.14.20, and I don't know why this S is over here. Just mention 4444. Okay, that's it. I'll save it. Okay, I don't want to do anything else over here. So we have the MSF Venom payload created. Okay, and the payload size is this. And so we'll just go to the buffer2 because we saved it as buff2. We'll copy it, close this, exploit. We'll go to exploit. We have that blank space, right? So where we had deleted the payload earlier. So we'll just paste it. And this says 7492. Yeah, it's good. So we have the exploit2 file present now over here. So now what we'll do is we'll create another file over here, and we'll be starting our netcat list now, because we can use netcat for this PowerShell reverse shell, not an issue. And now we'll be executing that Python exploit2.py file. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, my bad. I think I forgot to start the Python HTTP server. Server 8000. We did not get any request over here. If we look at the payload, Okay, start over here, it's 80. So probably it has to be 20. That was my bad. Okay, so that's how it is. Okay, probably work now. Oh, create the payload. So that's how we make mistakes at times. Okay, take this, generated that, the entire thing, paste it over here. Okay, and now try and execute that payload. And we get a get request over here. See, our payload got executed, right? And then we got a get request over here. That is from the, because why? I'll just probably tell you all. We had entered right over here PowerShell IEX new object download string from this HTTP. This, so this is the attack machine's IP address. This is the port 8000. This is the file. So we got a get request over here, and in the end, just because we in the end we had mentioned this, right, invoke PowerShell TCP, that once this thing has loaded, I want you to invoke it by itself. So we have mentioned this command over here. So we got our system shell over here, and this shell is PowerShell shell. Okay, so who am I? And it's Alfred. So if we want to execute that password commands and all, right, so you can do one by one over here. Okay, just to show you all, you can probably take this and do one by one. It'll be like, okay, I'll give a quick response. Just close these things. Okay, done. Now over here, obviously we'll not do shell.exe, but probably just do PowerShell, because we do not need a shell now because we saw it in the first place, right, how to do it. So I just want to show you all. Okay, who am I? Okay, take this, paste this. Okay, for some reason it did not give us who am I output. I'm not sure why. Yeah, I'm really not sure why it did not give us, but this is how it should work. And if you do start process file path, oh, okay, but anyway, this is how it has to be done. I don't know, I'm not sure why it did not work, but the start process thing should actually give us the, it should mention that particular who am I command, it should give us the output. Okay, take this, probably password admin, run it, start force. Just try it once more, that's it. I don't know, for some reason it did not give me that. I'm not sure, but it should actually work that way. It will actually give the who am I output or something like that. Okay, so now next thing what I will do is I'll just try and show you all, since we are in the system as obviously Alfred itself. So we'll just, okay, my bad, Linux users cd administrator cd desktop dir. We are over here, we cannot cat this file, or sorry, type this file. So it says you do not have permissions or something like that, right? But we have permissions to be in the desktop folder. If you guys have done the Windows boxes earlier, you do not have permission to enter administrator itself. So that means you have permission to enter this parent directory, you have permission to enter this child directory and the child over here. So root text is a child file of this desktop parent directory, right? So that means we have access to this directory over here. So we can somehow modify the access to get this particular file root text over here as well. So this is how we'll do it. We'll be using IACLS. So how in Linux we use chmod, right? So we'll be using chmod over here. We'll be giving like 777 first for user, then for group, and then for others. So like read, write, execute. So same way we'll be giving ICA, ICACLS something, and we'll be giving the file. Because first we want to check the permission. So how we check LSLA, right? We do LSLA. and we check out the file permissions, right? Over here it mentions file permissions, so that's the Windows way of doing it. ICACLS, and it will be like it says, yeah, successfully processed one file. So like root text, only Chatterbox administrator has full access over here. Okay, full access means obviously read write execute, that is this RWX, read write execute. So here in Windows there is like, I think, read and read write, read only and write and execute something. So you can probably go and check it out. And so now what we'll do is we'll try to give full access to this root text over here for this Alfred user. Okay, whether our user go Alfred. Okay, we are in the system as Alfred, so this Alfred user will get full access over here to root text. So we'll do ICACLS root txt. Then we'll be giving not grand, and Alfred, and we'll be giving F. So process file successfully processed one files, that is we got user as Alfred obviously. And now other thing what we'll do is obviously since we gave full file permission, we'll just check it out again. So we'll just take, copy it and paste. Now we'll see that root txt file has administrator has full access to it, F access, as well as Alfred has F access to it. And obviously you can go and very well read the file itself. You can check out this root text, you can go and type it, because you have full access to it. You can do it very well. Okay, so I would not do it now, but I just want to show that how do you remove the access as well, just since we got the grand thing. So probably it's as simple as cls root txt remove Alfred. Okay, so that's it. So if we do dir again, sorry, not dir, my bad, ccls root txt, so we have only F user over here. We do not have Alfred as well as in earlier. Okay, so this is how it can be done, but obviously this is a sneaky way to get root text, but obviously we need a shell in OSCP exam and everything. So that's why I put that part earlier, like, to get the shell. Okay, so that's how I did this particular box in the first part, like which I had showed. Then second part was a bit tricky and everything. Okay, so if you guys like the video, give a thumbs up and do subscribe more, for more upcoming videos as well. Okay, thank you.